Hello, everybody. Tim Lavin here again with another video podcast. This time I have a great guest, a former coach of mine at USC, Gary Bernardi. He has over 4 decades of coaching experience at the Division I level, from Arizona to USC, UCLA, Colorado, and now he is at San Diego State University. So I'm going to kind of pepper him with some questions here quickly because it's late in the evening and he still has meetings to go to. So I don't want to take much of his time. Coach, thank you for joining me, by the way.
No problem. Good to see you. Good to talk to you, Tim. It's been a few years, but that's good.
Yeah. So this podcast is about the recruiting performance, the recruiting situation, and obviously 4- and 5-star recruits probably don't need a whole lot of help because coaches are probably chasing them. But I wanted to do a podcast about the 3-star, 2-star, 1-star recruits that may not be getting a ton of publicity for whatever reason. Maybe they go to a small school or what have you, and they probably need to market themselves. So I wanted to reach out and find out, how soon is too soon for a student athlete to start reaching out to a coach such as yourself?
Well, first of all, obviously I'm a little bit old fashioned about the whole thing. And I think too soon is too early. And I always use the reference back to Rodney Leslie, who played defensive line for us when I was at UCLA. And he was on a new high school that had been open for 4 years. And they were 0-10 and 1-10. And I was just doing my diligence. And I went by and I got to see him and I met him and I knew the high school coach and those things, and ended up recruiting him to UCLA, and he had a good career and he played in the NFL for 8 to 10 years. And so if I really believe if you're good enough, you're going to get recruited. Number 2, I believe that there's a place for everybody. Mm-hmm. Everybody. There's a place for you to play. And what happens is, growing up in Southern California, maybe, when I would recruit in Arizona for many years, they grew up seeing Arizona and Arizona State. And so kids, it's not their fault, it's what they see, that they're accustomed to Pac-10 football or at a high level football. Well, not everybody has that opportunity. And so when I say there's a chance to play somewhere for everybody, there is. Mm-hmm. But coming from some of the profile schools in different areas, sometimes it's a letdown for a young man that he's not playing in the Pac-12 or not in the Mountain West. You only have X amount of scholarships.
Right.
In the Pac-12, you might have 300 scholarships a year. In the Mountain West, you might have 325 because there's more. Well, I guess now the leagues are pretty balanced with the numbers of schools, but there's a lot more kids playing high school football than there's scholarships available or full scholarships available.
Right. Understood. Is there a time frame when the coaches can reach out to a prospective student athlete, or well, I've heard of dead periods?
Well, there's all kinds of time periods during the year where it's dead, where it's a contact period, where it's a period where you can have contact on your campus, but you can't have contact on their campus, and you can't be off the road. It's a quiet period that's termed, and dead period, quiet period, contact period. And but just this fall, I believe it was July 1st now, coaches can go back out recruiting to the high school or to games on Friday nights and so on and so forth. But for what has it been, maybe 16 months, there was no contact at all off campus and very little on campus. So that made it difficult for the kids and for the schools.
Right. What about taking an official visit? Do you?
Well, the kids can take official visits, but the official visit's got to be offered by the university and by the coaching staff, just like the scholarships offered by the university and the coaching staff. And I think that's good. But I mean, unofficial visits are great in the summertime for young guys to do and see different things. And camps kind of dried up a little bit last summer and the summer before because of the problem we had with the COVID. But I think next summer they'll be going full speed ahead. And I think it's great. They should go to 2 or 3 or 4 camps. The problem is you got to be careful. You don't go to parents sometimes, and kids get wound up about it, and they go to 6 or 7. And obviously that gets to be expensive. Number 2, problem is it wears you down. Yeah. And you don't want to get hurt in the summer before your senior year because you're going to so many camps. But I think that you're talking about a guy that's not a highly recruited guy, the guy that might be getting a little attention, maybe the moderate amount. It's good for him to go to camps and get exposure. There's nothing, but he doesn't need to go 6 or 7. The thing that they have or the kids sometimes selecting which camps to go to. And that's where I think the high school coach should come into as an advisor or some direction in this sense. There's some guys that will go to 5 or 4 or 3 Pac-12 camps, and there's no way he's a Pac-12 player. He doesn't understand that maybe. And so he should be going to a Big Sky camp, a Mountain West camp or 2, maybe a favorite school and go there, a local camp at SC or UCLA or Arizona State, at Oregon State, or Washington State, or Wyoming, and the local camp. That's fine. But to go all over the place just to be seen, I think that you got to draw a line in the sand somewhere, and it should be more conservative than excessive.
And what's the best way for them to send you their huddle tape? Just shoot you an email?
You can email it. You can say, here's one thing that I don't think people fully realize is if you don't know what to do, is every school has a coach on the staff that's responsible for an area. So if your high school coach doesn't know which coach is available and he wants to help you, find out which coach recruits your school. And then the high school coach can contact that area coach. For instance, in the San Fernando Valley, Ventura County, in a lot of parts of Southern California and Northern California where I've recruited, I would know the coach. Some of those guys I might know for 30, 40 years, for Kevin Rooney and Ed Croshaw, Mike Harrington, and some of the coaches that I've dealt with for a long time. They can, they easily get in contact with me, or the state of Arizona or some other places. So now that's how you make contact. That's if the coach will make contact, and the coach will give you, and generally they will give you a legitimate assessment. And then it's up to us to make the decision. It's up to the positional coach. It's up to our head coach, to our coordinator. And, every situation is different. Every school's numbers are different every year.
Yeah. Right. Last question, Coach. When a kid verbally commits, that's just basically saying I'm stepping out of the recruiting portal and I would like to go to this school. But then you often see, not often, but sometimes you see guys decommitting. And so is there a rule on that? Or can he decommit all the way up until signing day?
Well, there's no official rule. It's all a handshake.
Mm-hmm.
But, if you work your tail off on a recruit and you have a relationship with him and he makes a commitment, I mean, you and I we grew up in the same world that if you made a commitment, you shook hands and looked somebody in the eye, you stuck to it.
Yep.
And, you'd like to think that would hold true. And that doesn't always hold true it's just changed a lot in the last 5 or 10 years. And so be it, that's the way it is. And so now it kind of goes both ways, where a school, more now than ever before, they can change their mind too if that's the way the kids want to play. But generally speaking, they make a commitment, they stick with it, and you sign a letter of intent in December or in February. But sometimes I think, Tim, that a kid would make himself more marketable if some of the money that he would spend going to camps and doing things to improve himself, if that person would invest some of that money into getting a higher SAT, ACT score, or doing better in school, you would make yourself more marketable too.
Right.
And sometimes that gets neglected because of this process that has become a runaway locomotive.
You're right.
And I think I hate to see kids in 8th, 9th, even 10th grade get consumed with recruiting instead of just being the best player he can be. Be the best player on your team at your position. Try to be the best player in your league at your position.
Right.
And work towards things that way. Recruiting will take care of itself. Parents, friends, kids, they sometimes just don't see it because they pay more attention to looking at the computer and looking at what other people are doing instead of just focusing on themselves, focusing on getting better, and understanding the process will work out. And then you have to choose if you want to still play football, but it's just a little lower level than you had anticipated.
Understood. Well, Coach, I could talk to you for hours on this, but I know you got to get to a meeting. Thank you very much for your time. I think your input is invaluable to student athletes, and hopefully these kids take your advice and run with it. So thank you very much.
My pleasure, and anything I could do to help, but I sincerely believe there's a place for most everybody to play, and I think they just have to be patient and be happy to help you anytime.
Outstanding. Thanks so much, Coach. I'll talk to you real soon.
Okay.
Have a great season.
You, Tim. Okay. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.